Simmons a recycled envelope and a small check from, on behalf of the CO4 members to the Nature Conservancy.
Thank you.
Let's ask some good questions. Aren't these two great leaders, first of all? Questions?
Yes.
Beth?
Well, I have one, to Scott, it has to do with the burns. I lived in California forever, and of course these are not controlled burns, you know, there's a lot of burns. And it seemed like it took forever for that land to be anything but desolate. So like we're doing burns outside of Crystal Bridges, when do you foresee that that land will be as beautiful as the picture you showed us? How long will it take?
So good question. Two answers to that. In Arkansas, our land's a little more resilient than out west. We've got more water, there's better soil. So if the area hasn't been really heavily grazed, it will bloom like that if there's enough sunlight in a year or two. So it's very dramatic. If it's been grazed heavily, like the woods around Crystal Bridges, which we learned this last year, it could take 5 years, 7 years.
I think that's what that did, and I wondered how that worked. You know?
Yes. So something we're working on with Crystal Bridges is figuring out, okay, what wildflowers used to be there, how much is going to come in naturally, how much do we need to plant. And it's just putting all the pieces back together.
Before the next questions, I want to introduce Sarah Lilligren, Senior Vice President of External Relations for Tyson Foods. Sarah's someone we want to create a warm and welcoming environment. Came down from Washington, D.C., supports Archie and his team, and we're very fortunate to have Sarah. Jeff Wood gets to work with her. Jeff used to be in the CEO forum, and so happy to get to serve her and her team. So thank you for being here, Sarah. Next question. Scott?
Walk me through the Nature Conservancy's finances. What do y'all get your money?
So we're about a $15 to $20 million annual business in Arkansas. It's about $1 billion annually, $1.2 billion nationally, internationally. We get, most of the support is from individuals who love Arkansas. And it's individuals, corporations, foundations, but it's really people. And they use the Nature Conservancy to accomplish something that's important to them. And that's why we like to think of ourselves as a partner. It's not the Nature Conservancy show. I mean, it's our state. So we're just a tool.
That's a good segue to the question I have with Scott. Scott, I mean, these are two great leaders. Talk to us about how you create a value proposition to get all these great companies to support you. And, I mean, you've done amazing things in my view. But talk to us a little about how you've been able to accomplish all of this with the private sector.
Okay, thanks for saying all that. That's nice. The other part of it is with agencies contributing. And so how we do that, it's just like, you know, Leadership 101. We develop a shared vision for a project or a place. You know, those groups of people, and the Arkansas conservation community is very collaborative. And so a group of people will get together who are interested in the same thing. It's just like the Illinois River Watershed Partnership. You know, they care about a place. They're from every facet of our society and culture. And they say, what do we want to achieve here? What's our vision? And then what are we, all of us, each going to do to accomplish it and work together? And the Nature Conservancy is just a slice of that. What our value proposition, what we try to do are two things related to that. And this comes from our board. First, that we have to be very partnership oriented. Because the Nature Conservancy is a large NGO relatively in our state, you know, we shouldn't be running things. We should be responsive to the needs of other people and then adapt our approach accordingly. So it could be research, it could be setting fire, it could be policy, it could be buying land. Each project or program is different. But then second, and this is something our board really harps on appropriately, is they say, you know, the killer for any nonprofit is trying to do too many things. And so they want us to be focused and strategic. And so we have 5 strategies. You know, fire, upland rivers, conservation, forestry, the delta. And everything fits into there so that we don't do too much.
I've tried to get Scott to do a couple of things. He says, you know, that isn't the opposite whips the board is saying. The other thing that I think is really important about the Conservancy is that they are a collaborative organization. They don't impose themselves on somebody who doesn't work with them. And they don't sue them. They literally work with folks who want to work with them.
Which came first for you, the Illinois River Partnership or the Nature Conservancy? And I say that because I'm on the board of the Illinois River with Mark, and he mentioned it. We might have gotten that organization started. We would not have been as successful and still be doing as well, but for the leadership of folks like Mark.
Actually, I was familiar with the Conservancy before the partnership was. And I don't think I was on board of the Conservancy at that time, but I had become a member and a supporter. So I understood the collaborative nature and the cooperative nature of the Conservancy, and I wanted to make sure that the Watershed Partnership adopted those philosophies, and I worked hard on it to keep it hasn't been hard work, but I stayed focused on it. The Watershed Partnership Board is diverse, as Scott said. People from every walk of life around here. And it has been a very cooperative effort that is, I don't know, how long we've been doing it? Almost 8 or 9 years, maybe like that. I think when we first started talking about it, it was
Mark, how do you grind through the situation when you're a leader of a company and you get something happen to you like the lawsuit with Oklahoma Attorney General? How do you grind through that and get beyond it?
well, we had part of my talk with the Conservancy that I cut loose here was to give Scott some time, was to talk about some problems that Simmons had back in the mid-90s. We created a real problem for stream in Oklahoma and really upset some downstream neighbors justifiably and so on and so forth. And that got my attention. We didn't do it intentionally. It was screw up on our part on not anticipating some loads in the water treatment system that in hindsight we probably should have. But anyway, we had some real problems. So we created an environmental team committee that meets quarterly and reviews all the environmental stuff for the company. And then we also, at that facility where we had the problem, we created a periodic meeting with community residents and bring them in and talk to them about what we're doing in the facility. But one thing that we did when the Attorney General sued us, and I made a conscious decision about this, is I said to our operations guys, you go run the company. I'm going to take this issue. John Elrock and I are going to take these issues and try to protect us from this lawsuit. If you've got a concern, some suggestions, that's great, but your focus needs to be on our customers and doing business. Now, other companies did things differently, but each one of them basically created a team in some sense away from their operations.
What was the outcome?
John reminded me, I thought it had been more recent, but we got through with the trial on
February 18th, 2 years ago.
February 18th. There were some appeals. The last appeal was decided on in December of 10, and it's been in the judge's hands since December of 10, and we don't know. Our attorneys believe, and I believe, sat through more days in the federal courtroom than I ever want to think about, that we made our case. I would be surprised if there's any significant negative ruling from the judge. He may ask us to do some things that we probably are already doing. But, the poker industry didn't deserve that lawsuit. We had been proactive. Northwest Arkansas doesn't deserve to be treated by Northeast Oklahoma the way we are being treated. We as a community have asked our water treatment plants to ratchet down their discharge on a voluntary basis of phosphorus and other nutrients, and we've done a great job of that. Our water treatment plants here in Northwest Arkansas, the substantial ones, are all doing under 1 part per million, which is their voluntary commitment. Most of them are doing about a half part per million in phosphorus, which is a really exceptional treatment level. Arkansas legislature, at the urging of the poultry industry, almost manned leadership also. Individual companies passed a law that said if you fertilize more than 2.5 acres in a nutrient-sensitive watershed, you have to have a nutrient management plan. That's in place, been in place for 5 or 6 years. Most comprehensive nutrient management law, I think, in the United States. Doesn't cover just chicken litter, it covers all kinds of fertilizers. So our golf courses, if you got a big lawn and you don't have a nutrient management plan and you fertilize it, you probably ought to look over your shoulder. 2.5 acres, not as big, not as, that ain't what, a lot of us have 2.5 acre lawns, particularly if you live in rural area. So,
Okay.
long story.
And can't you appreciate the flagship industry, the poultry industry, what good corporate citizens they are? Listening to Mark today, the things Sarah and her team are doing, feed hunger. Would you like to say anything about the feed hunger program, Sarah?
Some of you probably know, because we do a lot of donations in Arkansas, that Hunger's Tyson's biggest charitable effort. We do anywhere from 40 to 70 donations a year around the country, and each one of those donations has about 30,000 pounds of protein in it. Protein's really hard to get by the food banks. And in addition to that, we realize over time, actually protein's getting scarcer. Our whole protein supply in the world is smaller today than it's ever been. That trend doesn't look like it's going to change, so that probably means we'll have less product to donate going forward. And so we're trying to do more to raise awareness. One of the weird things about hunger is people don't realize, people are ashamed to admit they need help sometimes. And people don't realize they've got hunger in their own backyard. So try to get other people engaged and helping out in their own communities, trying to raise awareness. Hunger usually is a temporary condition in this country. People need a hand up for a little while. They don't need a hand out for life. And so we're trying to do some public awareness.
Great. Thank you for letting me impose on you.
Well, thanks for the stage.
Okay, and the other issue that we all need to support is you need alternative energy. We need solar, we need wind, but we need to get corn out of the ethanol so it can be reduced in price so that we can afford our protein effectively. We're getting ready to have some real issues with our inventory supply of poultry prices and everything. Other questions? Yes, Lowell?
Scott, do your aquifer and cave guys have a notion of what effects fracking might have on the environment?
On fracking? Most of the fracking isn't, or it's not occurring in any karst areas, so it won't have any effect, doesn't have any effect on the cave and karst areas. The main, and we haven't found any impacts on groundwater or any issues. Most of the issues with fracking are just the amount of water it needs from the upland rivers to do it. Arkansas is in the middle of updating its state water plan. We have a lot of water in Arkansas. We just need to make sure we have it in the right places at the right times for us to use. And one piece of that is documenting how much water a healthy river needs, and then deciding, okay, how much additional water do we have to use at different times of the year. And so that'll be the key thing related to fracking. But so far we haven't noticed any impacts to any of our places. It seems like, and you know, we work with a lot of the environmental organizations that are very concerned about it. But so far it seems like the concerns are more related to the unknown than what we're actually seeing. Is that a fair summary?
On occasion, you could have a downhole problem where there's a little, but it's a minority. That's true.
I think the biggest impact of all the drilling is how many trucks running up down the roads and the unintended consequences of that on our dirt roads over the mountains and so and some site stuff, not necessarily with major drillers, but it's interesting. Scott and I had a conversation with Teresa Marks, the head of ABQ, and described to her how USDA deals with issues in the poultry plant, and they have a stop button. And if they don't, you know, if we don't respond to a need, an observed problem that the USDA has, they just reach out and touch the stop button. Well, I get your attention really quick. And I said, Teresa, I'm sure that if you look, you've got the ability to walk on that site and basically say stop. And they'll fix the problem if you'll do that. And if they don't. And I don't know if she's ever done that, but she got really quiet.
To add to that, it's interesting, our environmental issues. So Arkansas has pretty good laws and regulations protecting the environment. I mean, they're not as strong as other states, but they're pretty good. But we're not very good on enforcement. And a lot of the companies that we work with, they say, you know, we don't need to do laws. Let's just enforce the laws that we have.
Yeah. And
all it takes is a little bit of enforcement that gets people's attention. Teresa shut down some land farm. There's types of companies where you can land apply water from the drilling process, the sputter water, not the drilling fluid, but the water that comes out of the well first. And a couple of farms were doing it well. You know, she shut them down in a second, and everybody else got in line. So,
Any other questions?
yes.
Now you were talking about the King River area that you guys now have. I guess the next step, once the Conservancy gets land and you want to make it available to the public, how does it get controlled? How does the public know that those lands are available for their use, the public's use?
So, good question. Two ways. About 70% of the land that we own, we co-own with a state agency.
Okay.
So Arkansas supporters are helping state agencies acquire larger places. And so they become natural areas, wildlife management areas, wildlife refuges. The ones that are ours alone, like the Kings River, which we just own as a nature conservancy, supported by the members, we just try and advertise it on our website and in our newsletter and when I give presentations. And there's signs.
they do, they're starting to do more field trips.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll be publicizing those field trips. So if you want to go see the Kings River in an organized manner, look for the field trip that's going to go there, like Smith Creek, which Scott didn't have a picture of. I thought he was going to.
Because I always have a picture of Smith Creek. Oh, we always got Smith Creek.
Smith Creek is right there. It's a little tributary of the Buffalo River. It is a mile walk up a nice little valley, and you see some of the most beautiful rock formations that you can ever imagine. And I had the world's best tour guide. I can't guarantee you that he'll be on your tour, but look for a Smith Creek, because it's a wonderful little easy walk.
Did you pick up the little field trip?
I grabbed the year-end reports.
So we've got on our website, we do about 12 field trips a season. We have a staff member who their job is to make it easy for supporters or partners to get out to the places. So if there's any place that any of you would like to go see, just give me a call. My number's on the back of the newsletter, or email me. I can leave my card. That's what we love to do that, because Arkansas has just incredible places. A lot of them are secrets, but once you see them, you know, we spread the news.
Yeah.
Smith Creek is, if you're at the Boxley Church in Boxley Valley, with your back to the Baptist Church, you look across the valley, there's 2 square miles of land upstream. It's like Lost Valley without the crowds.
Thank you all very much. We appreciate you coming.